Hello, my creative brothers and sisters. Sourdough here. And I want to tell you about some cool new things we got for you at notrealart.com. We just launched our artist education program where you can learn and grow your arts career. We call it the Not Real Art School. Not Real Art School features 5 free courses with top artists and business experts, all who spoke at our Creators Conference in 2019. Our free courses include important business topics for any artist, such as how to protect your art, how to market your art, how to license your art, and even how to pitch your ideas in Hollywood. Our Not Real Art School program also contains free career advice from top artists who tell you how they achieve success in their careers. These artists include Jorge Gutierrez, Logan Hicks, Julie B., and Human. Take advantage of this empowering content today. Just visit notrealart.com and click on the school link to get access to this valuable educational content. And the best part is, it's all free. Yes, free. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Visit notrealart.com today to learn this important business knowledge and grow your arts career. Here's more good news. Not Real Art now offers a new art buying program in collaboration with LA-based art publisher Sugar Press Art. This is great news because now you can easily buy cutting-edge contemporary art at affordable prices and get free shipping with every purchase simply by going to notrealart.com. Sugar Press publishes over 80 amazing contemporary artists that I know you'll love. Artists include Colette Miller, Aaron Yoshi, Jorge Gutierrez, Man One, Risk, Tanner Goldbeck, Max Neutra, Two Fly, and many, many more. To take advantage of our new art buying program, simply go to notrealart.com, click on shop, and you'll be there. You'll find all these amazing artists at affordable prices, and you'll get free shipping. Okay, heads up, my creative brothers and sisters. Not Real Art now has an exclusive membership program designed just for you. If you're an artist or an art lover and you appreciate what we do here at Not Real Art and you'd like to join the family and help support the cause and celebrate creative culture and the artists who make it, please consider becoming a member today. Your membership will help support our work, such as funding our artist grant and production costs for all the programs and content we produce. Your membership will also help us stay independent and commercial free. And when you do become a member, you'll get valuable benefits and perks we think you'll find very cool. And becoming a member is super affordable. Just $5 a month for artists and $10 a month for art lovers. So to become a member of the Not Real Art family, simply go to notrealart.com, click on membership to sign up, and help us celebrate and elevate the creative culture we love and the artists who make it. Thank you.
Warning: the Not Real Art podcast is intended for creative audiences only. The Not Real Art podcast celebrates creativity and creative culture worldwide. It contains material that is fresh, fun, and inspiring and is not suitable for boring old art snobs. Now, let's get started and enjoy the show.
Greetings and salutations, my creative brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Not Real Art podcast, where we celebrate creative culture and the artists who make it. I'm your host, Sourdough. And on today's episode, I'm honored to be joined by artist and designer David Schwartz, aka Devious, but that's from another life. And you'll hear more about that on the podcast. But few of you might know him as Devious. I wanted to put that out there. Anyway, David is awesome. He is so talented, and I'm so grateful to have him on. Humble dude, humble guy. I tell you what, if I had his experience and his talent, his abilities, I would not be so humble. I'd also be an asshole, I'm sure. But he is not. He is far from it. He is a beautiful soul and a humble, humble dude. And I just love talking to him. I mean, like so many artists, he, of course, pays the bills, doing commercial work, designing for commercial clients, whether they be music labels or high-end brands like Aston Martin. He's done a ton of stuff in television and movies. He's worked with celebrities, so on and so forth. Matter of fact, fun fact, and you'll hear more about this, but no joke, David studied and worked under the one and only Prince. For 2 years, he wrote, recorded, designed, and even toured with Prince. Prince mentored him. Prince respected him and valued his work and his talents, not just as an artist, but a dancer, as a rapper, and a basketball player. They used to play hoops together. It's just an amazing story. What a cool, priceless experience that David had working with Prince as a young guy that really put him on a path towards creativity and art and design. And so David's just got this amazing story. But I definitely want you to check him out, because what he's doing right now in terms of physical art is so dope. I mean, it's so cool. I mean, as I said, of course, he's doing commercial design, so on and so forth. But the last couple of years, he's been really focusing on his physical art. And you can check it out at rhymecapsule.com. And you got to check this out. I mean, this art is literally and figuratively heavy art. I mean, it is heavy culturally, heavy emotionally, heavy conceptually, but also heavy physically. This thing is epic. It's biblical. It is a biblical proportion. It is so cool. But you definitely got to check it out at rhymecapsule.com, rhymecapsule.com, rhymecapsule.com. And if you want to check out David and his commercial work, his design work, you can check him out at davidmadeit.com, davidmadeit.com. You're going to love this. You're going to love his stories. You're going to love what it takes to his story in terms of making this artwork, the challenges, the ups and downs, the surprises, the joy, the pain, the backaches, and just the reality, right, of what it takes to realize a vision that you have as an artist. And how that vision can grow and evolve, and the challenges that presents. I know you're just going to dig it. So without further ado, I'm going to stop rambling, and we are going to get into this. I want you to hear it straight from the man himself, the one and only David Schwartz, a.k.a. Devious. David Schwartz, welcome to Not Real Art.
Yeah.
Dude, you're here.
I'm virtually I'm here, digitally.
Virtually here, yes. How long have we been talking about this?
Oh, more than a year for sure.
More than a year for sure, that's right. And, life gets crazy. Things have been nuts, but I'm so grateful that we found time to sit down and talk about you, brother. Talk about all the goodness that you've been putting out in the world, all the passion and love, for art and for design. And, obviously doing your freelance corporate work to pay the bills as you're really, as like most of us, trying to just be a full-time artist. It's a struggle.
Sometimes you go in and out of that world. You go from your passions back to, I got to get this money, back to your passions. And hopefully you can just merge it all into one at the end of the day. That's the ultimate goal.
That's it, brother. That's it. So for our listeners who are tuning in, they know already that because of the COVID age that we're living in, that so many of our interviews have been over the interwebs. And usually we're sitting together in a room, which is always the best and better. Right. But here we are. And actually, though, given your coordinates, we may have had to do this like this anyway, COVID or no COVID, because you're actually in Atlanta and I'm out here on the West Coast. So, break it down for me. When exactly did you move to Atlanta?
I left in September 2019 after almost 10 years, a little more than 10 years. I moved here for work.
Yeah, man.
For that, it's got to support my art addiction.
you gotta have money to buy the supplies, and in your case, marble and crystal and everything else.
I gotta be high to buy those supplies.
So some artists just go buy pencils. You buy crystals and marble and hard to find vintage hip hop classics. I mean, come on.
Right. What was I getting myself into?
Well, there are probably a few listeners who may know you from your persona from, like 2 lifetimes ago, Devious. And you
Five
said
lifetimes
that,
ago.
like 5 lifetimes ago, right? Right. You said there might be one or two out there.
Went to a Prince concert at some point in the early 2000s.
Man, I was reading up, about you a little bit. I mean, you and I met through mutual friends, and it's instant love when that happens. But one of the things that I didn't know about you that I read about was how you lived in your car after art school, right? In Minnesota, right? To pursue your art, pursue your career. You lived in your car.
It was in and out. I would find a friend to crash with for a couple weeks, or a girlfriend, but those few hard nights, there was a few here and there where it was just like, okay, well, that's just what I need to do. It's not that big of a deal. It's like, you got to do what you got to do just to, I had options. I had family. My dad moved to Florida, so I was in Minneapolis on my own. I didn't have any family. He offered me to come down there and live, but I was chasing my music, and I had a few connections going in Minneapolis, and I could have stayed with him until I got on my feet. I was 18, but I didn't have anything going in Florida. I didn't want to move down to Miami. He moved to Miami Beach, and I loved it there, but that wasn't where my music was. So I couldn't, there wasn't an option at that time.
Yeah, Florida seems appropriate in like 50, 60 years, like.
Or if you have the money to have a good
Yeah,
time
right.
for a weekend. I was neither one of those things. So,
But I mean, but I just love that story because I mean, I feel like, unfortunately, there's a lot of folks out there that don't want to pay their dues or think that it's supposed to come easy, or if you Google it or read the Wikipedia page or something, that suddenly you're an expert or you know your shit. And the struggle, the blood, sweat, and tears, the hard work that goes into realizing our dreams. I mean, I know I paid my dues, you paid your dues. Like that's what it takes, right? I mean,
I think it is probably a little easier to pay those dues when you're 18 than it is when you're 40 and you need like healthcare and shit like that. But still, it's the principle, it's the idea.
Forgive me if I'm being presumptuous here, but like that also gets to the nature of being an artist, like the ebb and flow. Like it's feast or famine, right? Some days are easy and some days are hard. It's like whoo, up and down.
Yep.
So you're in Atlanta and you're doing some design work today for a corporate client. Are you with an agency there, or are you freelancing?
I am full time with a company right now.
Well, I tell you what, as we were saying earlier, it's been a minute. We haven't seen each other in a long time. And when I saw you last, you were so generous to introduce me to your current passion project, the rhyme Capsule, man. I mean, like, come on now.
It wasn't even supposed to be what it was in the beginning. It just kept evolving. And once I got in too deep, I couldn't go back because,
you can't go
you
back.
drown. If you go back, you're going to drown. So you've already put so much time and money and effort. And like, if I didn't follow it through, I just kind of went where the idea took me. And I put a lot more into it than I thought I was going to have to, but I had to finish it. I was possessed,
Yeah.
really possessed in a good way, but a little risky at the same time.
Well, that's what we do, right? I mean, we take risks, and hopefully we don't break anything in the process. But and in your case with Rhyme Capsule, boy, you have to be extra careful not breaking anything because that thing is so heavy and big and fragile. Like, so when you got the idea, take me to that moment, take me to that day, take me to the events that led up to the inspiration. And what was that initial inspiration?
I have been a designer for 20 years. I've designed a lot of album covers for many artists. I've worked with a lot of artists on their brands, and I haven't created work for myself in a long time. And no physical art, pretty much ever. It's all been in the computer. It's all been digital. I've never been to Art Basel, but I've always heard about it. I've never been anywhere like that except for the LA Art Show is what started all this. I went to the LA Art Show in 2018. So it was late January, early February. I've never been to anything quite like that before. I just wandered the whole space the entire day and just was taking pictures of all the artists' names. It blew my mind. A lot of those pieces there were amazing. Some of them were, it just felt like a magic trick to me. And I was like, I want to, how do we create this kind of a magic, to take up, it's so different from me creating in a digital space, seeing something in the physical space and how it changes the mood or the energy of the room and the people around it. I thought that was really special. And all the stuff I've been doing for so long, it doesn't do that. It doesn't have that same effect. So it possessed me. I left there just like shell shock. Like I just came home like, how come I'm not a part of this world, and how come I'm not making physical art? And I come from entertainment, so physical art to me is like, it's just another form of expression and entertainment and interacting with people in the real world instead of just in digital media. It's a different thing, but it's kind of where I come from originally, is in being, having something in front of people. So I went home and I was like, all right, I have to start, thinking about what kind of stuff do I want to make? What am I passionate about? And around that same time, I went to the Melrose Flea Market right there on Fairfax and Melrose, one of those Sundays that they have. And I found some old hip hop cassette tapes from the 80s and 90s. And I bought a few of them because I just was holding them and I was just so nostalgic. It just brought back so many feelings. And it was just so special to open them up and read the liner notes and see all the artwork. And, I just really appreciated that stuff because I come from the 80s and 90s hip hop, and I was a huge fan of album covers. That's what got me into designing in the first place, was seeing all those album covers. So it was really, that nostalgic feeling was really big for me, and that impacted me almost around the same week that the LA Art Show did. So I kind of just thought, all right, let me push these two things together and see what I come up with. And originally, I was going to make a huge microphone out of the cassette tapes. But after doing some of the engineering at home, trying to figure out the engineering, I was like, hey, let me, I'm not a metal fabricator. I'm going to have to rethink this a little bit. So I was like, all right, what can I make? Which was even sillier because what I did wound up being 100 times harder than the microphone. but whatever. So I said, all right, well, I started buying more and I was blocking them together, and I was like, wow, I wonder if I could. And the third thing was, I was at the Rose Bowl flea market, and I found one of those lucite embedments of a coin.
Oh
And
yeah, right.
I've always been fascinated by people embedding shit in lucite and acrylic and stuff. And that always seems magical too. It's like a magic trick. The shit just hovers in midair and it kind of preserves it so that kind of inspired me too. And I was like looking at embedment art online, getting inspired by some real artists that are really doing cool shit with embedments. And I was like, all right, I want to embed the tapes inside of the acrylic, and I want to make a boombox. I want to take old plastic boombox parts and glue them to the outside and kind of make this boombox at home. Come to find out that I met with Pretty in Plastic, which was Julie, and
Shout
she's
out,
amazing.
shout out, Julie P. We love Julie.
Yeah, she's amazing. So I met with them. I really wanted to work with them, but I met with an engineer who does lucite embedments. Like that's all he does, and he was saying that the cassettes are going to melt under the heat and the high pressure and all that. So I thought my whole idea I thought, all right, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I guess it's over. It was a good idea, but I'll have to think of something else. And then I was talking with a friend of mine. He said, why don't you just, make it out of crystal? And then I was like,
Great idea.
it just like, why was I thinking plastic when I can go fucking crystal? And then that changed my whole way of thinking. I was like, holy shit, I can design all the knobs, the speaker grills, I can everything out of crystal. Every single element that makes up that boombox, I can make it out of crystal and design it all in Illustrator, make vectors and blah blah blah. I was like, all right, I can do this. I'll figure out the rest as I go. And that's how it all started.
Yes. And then the budgeting kicks in and you realize like, oh my goodness, quality costs.
Yeah, let me I think buying a condo is out of my future, and buying a car and I'm gonna just pretty much erase all of my goals and put everything into this. That makes perfect sense.
I love it.
It does not make perfect sense at all, but I did it.
So, okay. But I mean, it's joking aside though, right? I mean, like that's such a beautiful moment, right? When you realize like what you need to be doing, like what you get that clarity for like what solves the problem, like what's going to work, like what, is going to help you realize your vision. So like, but I mean, you know nothing about crystal. Except that
Right.
maybe that it's expensive. Like maybe you know that, or maybe you don't.
I was at the Swarovski store. I went to Swarovski to just kind of look at some of their figurines and stuff. They have all the Disney characters, and I saw a stormtrooper helmet made out of charcoal crystal, and it was for sale for eight at the Grove in LA, and it was for sale for $8,000, and it was just this big. It was like the size, a little bit smaller than my head, and it was 8,000, and I was like, holy shit. Okay. So I'll probably have to sell this for a little bit. If it's going to cost me something, at least maybe I'll be able to actually sell it for something. So I didn't let the price, I tried to just put that out of my head and just kind of do the whole Kevin Costner thing. If you build it, they will come kind of approach. That's just what I decided to do.
Okay, so that makes sense, right? I mean, you started doing your research, trying to learn. You go to check out one of the biggest brands in the space. Then what? I mean, like you just go to Google and you start searching for
a lot of late nights, and I reached out to maybe 20 to 30 people that work with Crystal that do anything from trophies to figurines to whatever. And nobody out of like the 30 people, nobody wanted to. And I didn't show them everything I was doing because I didn't want people to know too much. I just kind of did like some sort of replica of something else and was like, just to get an idea if I could work with them. Nobody wanted to take on a custom project of that size and that weight and everything, except for two guys. One guy in Florida, one guy in New York. The guy in Florida, we didn't really. I felt like it wasn't going to work. It was the wrong energy. And the guy in New York was all about it. He had the right energy. He's like, man, whatever you want to do, like I'll make it work. Like I designed everything myself meticulously. Every square inch, I measured everything in the computer. I did it in Illustrator, and then we did the CAD versions so we could send that to get cut from the CAD files.
You're going to have to educate me because I'm I'm completely ignorant when it comes to crystal. So like, how is crystal even made? I mean, is it mined? Is it made? Is it how is crystal?
Honestly, I need a lesson in that because he was keeping keeping a lot of that stuff to himself, but he was sourcing it
Trade
from.
secrets. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was sourcing it. Obviously, I don't know how it's produced, but I know if we gave them CAD files, they're obviously cutting that with some sort of machinery to cut to get the exact measurements. And then he was sourcing it from Europe, he said, and it's 100% lead-free optic crystal, which was the same clarity and quality that Swarovski uses. And that's all the information that he was sharing with me.
It's good enough for them. It's good enough for me. Right, man. I mean, I just have so many questions. So, and obviously, so you've got this great partner in New York who is down with the project, wants to do it with you, obviously being a little coy about trade secrets or proprietary processes or whatever. Okay, so you build this thing in Illustrator and then you eventually get to a CAD.
Actually, I did it in Photoshop first. We did a 3D model before the CAD. That way we did screenshots of every angle of it in 3D. So before we go to CAD, there's no confusion or misunderstandings about every single thing that I wanted. And it's funny because even then people still find a way to get some things wrong, and then it becomes costly mistakes, of course. Even after you give them every measurement, every screenshot, there's always some things that they take creative liberties on, and you're like, what the fuck is that?
That's called the human element, the human factor. Right?
Bro, that's not what I gave you at all.
That's right. There is no poetic license here. This isn't your project, dude. You're supposed to do what I tell you. Yeah. Is that a boombox, a particular model and brand that was special to you coming up, or did you just like what example or model boombox did you use to build your prototype?
I Googled a whole bunch, and it's kind of a mishmash of different elements that I like from different boomboxes, as well as creative liberties that I took to take away or to add, because I didn't want to make it too busy to where you couldn't see the tapes, because the tapes were kind of like the main nostalgic factor and conversation piece about this. So I didn't want to get too much about, oh, it needs to be, this many knobs here. I kind of strategically took some liberties to create my own way. Even with the sides, some boombox had vents and some didn't. And when I finished this piece, I realized the sides were really boring. They're just flat, and there's no interesting things about the sides of the cassette tape. So I did 30 pieces of beveled crystal strips on each side, and I beveled them a few times. So that way, when you walk around it, it looks like vents, but it's also gives off this magical, like, blingy effect. And that was actually one thing that I was like, didn't know what I was going to do. And it actually came out to be my favorite part of it. Because when you walk around, that's the part that really, really sparkles and shines.
Yeah, it sexes it up, man. It's beautiful. Yeah, no, it definitely adds that certain flavor and
Yeah.
flair. And I didn't know that was your embellishment. That's super cool. So you get the CADs ready. You send them over to this guy in New York. How long do you have to wait before you get your first prototype?
Since we were doing it, it was painful because he kept getting some things wrong along the way, and it took about 6 months to get it in a place where he had everything there and he was shooting pictures of it. And then, of course, like one or two things are wrong, just one or two knobs are wrong, and then we have to wait another 2 months, or after. So it's like right when you think it's over, it's not. And then I wanted to be there in New York so we could put it together. I wanted to bring the tapes there personally and fly out there with the tapes on the plane with me and sit down. And when we do the UV glue and get everything on there, I wanted to be there to make sure everything was right, because I can't trust him, to make this. Everything needs to be exactly how I designed it. So I flew out there with the tapes and sat there with him for a whole day, and we put it together. And it was interesting for me to learn that process and watch how it's all done. So it gives me some better ideas of what I could do better the next time, or all that also. So the podium, the marble part, originally I was going to do a marble pillar. It was just all about, I was going to put it on like a Greek looking, temple pillar. So one circular pillar. And I was talking to my friend Isaac we actually went to see fish that day, and we ate at that La Bamba place right by Fishes over there. And we had a conversation. He was like, "What are you going to put it on, man? It's magical." I was like, "I was thinking a marble pillar." And then he was like, "What about, like, you remember those, like, the Greek god statues like Atlas or like Apollo, or Apollo's the god of music, but Atlas had the globe." And I started thinking while we were sitting there, I was like, I just knew it at that moment. I was like, "You mother, I already knew what I was going to do. And now you put this idea in my head." And I was like, man, now I'm just way off course, because what am I going to do? Make a marble sculpture? Like, what? Like, I'm not gonna do all that. This is so much extra work. That's not what I planned. I went home that night and I couldn't sleep. I was like, I guess I'm making a marble man.
Marble man.
And that was 20,000 times harder than the boombox. And that wasn't even supposed to be the art piece. That was just supposed to be a podium. And it became a enormous process. Painful, painful, painful,
Thanks,
painful
Fish. Thanks
process.
a lot, pal.
So I decided to work with Isaac. I said, "Man, can you work on it with me?" He does 3D work. And so we built it in 3D first and got him the way we wanted it. And then it was a similar process. I found someone in Asia that can take our 3D design and part machine the bulky parts out, and then hand chisel all the fine details and stuff. And of course, they get everything wrong. It's worse when you're dealing with a human body. It's a million times worse than some knobs and buttons that you can imagine. Yeah, at one point he even had a thong on. So well, no, he had jeans, but it looked the way the jeans were. It looked like, yeah, it looked, bro. Oh my God, there was just so many issues, so many issues. You give a perfect 3D render and it strays so much. They just no attention to detail. So it took hundreds and hundreds of emails and me sketching on stuff for them to understand what I was trying to go for. And finally it got there. And then my nightmare was just beginning with trying to move 1,000-pound marble around a bunch of times. That's fun.
This is such a slippery slope, right? Being an artist sometimes, like, getting these new ideas and inspirations, and it, in some ways, it obviously, elevates it and blows it up in a beautiful way, but getting there is just painful.
Never dealing with customs before, and never dealing with the problem with 1,000-pound piece of marble is it's not so much the pallet, right? Because anyone can have, I own a pallet jack now. I have one. You can rent a liftgate truck, all that. The problem is what happens when you want to photograph it or showcase it, right? You have to take this thing off of the wood onto the floor without damaging it or the floor. And then when you're done, you have to pick it up and put it back on the piece of wood. That little part right there It takes 8 guys and like a European vacation just to move this thing every time I want to show it somewhere or do something or move it from one place to another. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I so having been with you and the piece that day, we talked about it that day. It's just like, I mean, moving art is an art unto itself, right? Which means
Yeah.
that it's also a very expensive thing to do, right? If you're gonna like, certainly if you're gonna outsource that to proper art movers or whatever, that's if you just have, 100 pounds or something,
Right.
right?
Right.
You have no, my friend, not you. You want 1,000 pound, some heavy art, literally heavy art.
Yeah, man. Not fun.
But boy, does it show. I mean, it just exudes such positive energy when you're around the sculpture, around the piece. I mean, it is just so positive.
It has an energy.
It
It has an
totally has
energy to it.
energy. And it's like the boom box, the crystal boom box with the cassettes. I mean, I'm not going to say anything that you haven't already said or that hasn't already been said about it, but it's literally the crown jewel, right? Like the podium is is the crown. It's amazing. So okay, so now you decide okay, I need to get some marble. I need to fabricate or shape some marble. Like, where do you go? Marble.com? I mean, like, what does that even look like?
Yeah, that took a lot of research. I'd say that took a while to find somebody that does it, that it's going to be somewhat affordable. It's going to be custom to what I want and let me design it, and they can make exactly what I want. And then that the work that they've done is amazing work, so I know that the quality they do is great. And then also someone I can trust. I have to kind of, I'm dealing with somebody overseas in Asia that may not speak good English, and we've never done business before, and I'm going to send them thousands of dollars up front to start. It's kind of like, it's scary for somebody, when I don't have millions. I can't just like go, oh, well, hope it works out. I need it to work out. I can't gamble with what I have. So one of the things I did was I wanted to do a video chat of them walking me through the factory, and the person who's going to be helping me sculpt this from my renders and everything. So we did a video chat, and then I felt comfortable after seeing the offices and the everything. I knew it was real. Someone wasn't just gonna go buy some Jordans on network app or something.
Happens all
So
the time, man.
right. So I crossed off all my check marks and sent that money and began a 9-month journey with them to getting what I envisioned.
And because of the way this happened, it's not like you're developing the boombox and the podium on parallel paths.
I actually started the marble first. The marble was done and in my possession before the boombox was.
Interesting. Okay, but was it in being fabricated, or
They were both going at the same time.
okay?
It's just so happened that because I started the boombox first before I even thought of the marble, but as far as producing it, that started a little later because I still thought I was going to do acrylic and with pretty and plastic and all that. Like I thought I was going to make an embedment. So I didn't start the boombox till the marble was like halfway already through.
Right, right.
So the whole thing took about 15 months total from when I wanted to start it. But depending on what happens and what route I go, I told myself that I wouldn't make more than 3. If I even had the opportunity to, I would keep this as a limited thing and I wouldn't do more than 3. If not, maybe just this one. But I do want to start offering options of just the boombox on a marble pillar and for a lesser cost than them selling this main guy for. So I'm making that offering right now.
Right. Which, by the way, take it or leave it, but my partner, Man One, shout out Man One, he just loves the rhyme capsule, loved it, and he said right quick, he's like, oh man, he should be making some toys, so he should like collect, like short little toys. I'm like, I bet he's on it. So
I am, but that this one this one took a treasure chest to make it happen. So I can't. I gotta. That's another thing is it's bittersweet, right? Because I wanted to make something that would get attention because you as an artist, you want to get your, be able to make more art. But at the same time, this isn't something I can I can follow that mold of like, oh, I need at least three pieces, to get into a gallery, and I need to do a showing, and it kind of cuts me out of a lot of that, and I need to build a name by selling a lot of small pieces, and like it kind of like it's bittersweet. It's like it's great in some ways, and then in other ways it's holding me back from being able to produce a lot of work. It's an interesting journey, and I had a guy who's an art collector I got introduced to by a friend of mine, and he gave me some advice, and he was like, man, you kind of did it backwards. He's like, you should start off with the small toys first and got that momentum going, and then you release the big piece. And yeah, I know he's right, but I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, man. I just chase my, like, this is my, I got to go with the flow. And this was the flow. Like I had to make this, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, and by the way, I don't know this guy, so but I guarantee you, I have big money money on the fact that if you had talked to him 5 years ago and you'd said, "Hey, I got this idea," he would have been like, "Oh yeah, go for it." I don't think he would have said, "Oh, start with toys first." But hey, what do I know?
Yeah.
So talk about the tapes that are in the boombox, because that is truly literally, in many ways, some might argue, the heart and soul of the project, right? I mean, so take me through that. Talk to me about what's in there, how you acquired those tapes.
So let's start with how I got them. Some of them I was picking up at flea markets, whether it was Rose Bowl Flea Market or Melrose Trading Post. There's about 6 or 7 little record stores around LA and Burbank and all that. And I would go into a few of those, and each place might have, like, Amoeba usually has like, shitty ones that nobody wants, because as far as hip hop cassettes go, they're always sold out, or they have like 20 artists there you've never heard of. But there are a lot of the smaller record stores have a large collection of tapes, and some of them go for $50 to $100 a pop. So I would buy some from them, and then I would go to an online store and buy some of the other ones that I wanted to round out my collection I couldn't find in the stores that I was looking for. So it was a combination between in person and online. As far as the ones I chose, I wanted to keep it to a 20-year period from 1980 to 2000. It just seemed like that was a good block. I kind of feel like that was also a golden era in hip hop, and some people may or may not challenge that, but I personally feel like it was. Not to say that there wasn't great hip hop that came out after 2000. I felt like there was something really special about the development in the early stages and watching it expand fast, and all these personalities coming out and kind of shaping it in the beginning. So I wanted to incorporate not just the best lyricists, but also guys that helped influence the culture. So whether it was commercial or it was somebody that was considered a masterpiece album, the most respected. So there's some commercial albums in there, but there's a lot of hip hop head albums in there also. It spans everything. I wanted to do East Coast, West Coast. I wanted to do everything. A couple people have 2 albums in there, and those were probably people that I took a special liking to, or they were just that epic. Like Tupac and Biggie have a couple, Nas has a couple, Jay-Z has a few. So I wanted to build that out. They're all albums except for a few singles. There's a few singles just because I wanted to get a certain artist in there and I couldn't get the album, so I had to make do with a couple singles.
So you had a vision for the artists that you wanted to find when you were on these hunts.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And the ones I couldn't find, I would just keep a list and I would look for them online. There was a couple artists I really wanted to get into this one. There was 2 or 3 that I really wanted, and I just couldn't get the tapes.
Well, did I read somewhere that like even like a few people or a couple people even gave you some tapes like to put in there?
Yeah. So Jackie Thompson, who used to be Prince's kind of manager, or Paisley Park kind of executive, I've known her for almost 20 years, and she was working with Prince before I was working with him. And she's friends with Atron Gregory, who used to manage Tupac up until the Suge Knight days. And he also discovered and managed Digital Underground, and he had a record label. And I got to meet him in LA. Jackie introduced me to him, and I showed him what I was working on when it was just a mock-up in Photoshop. I hadn't even made this thing yet. And he thought it was cool, and he let me know if there's any way he could help. He would help, and he mailed me a few original cassette tapes of Tupac and Digital Underground that were still shrink wrap from back in the day, like original from his garage. And he also contacted Alonzo from World Class Wrecking Crew, who was in the NWA movie. He was the guy who owned the studio where NWA was recording, or the club and stuff. And so Alonzo mailed me a World Class Wrecking Crew tape with Dr. Dre on it, cover with him from 1985, I think, still shrink wrap.
And all those are
I put those in there. I put them in there. That was really really nice of them to mail those to me. And I kept one of the ones, I think one of the digital ones that he gave me. I kept one of those for myself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, if he sent you more than one, then why not? Well, I have so many questions, right? But like, some obvious questions, and I was going to save this for later, but since you mentioned him, I mean, if Prince were still with us, like, what do you think he would say about this artwork? Like, what would he be saying and thinking about what you've done?
Man, I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago, and I thought if he didn't see it on social media, and if he just happened to be able to see it in person, and we were alone, he probably wouldn't say anything. There's so much to see. I think he would probably walk around it in a circle a few times and just be quiet and kind of take it all in. And I feel like he would comment and like bring up a story about one of the artists in there, or like one of his memories from one of the albums that he loves, maybe The Tribe Called Quest or Public Enemy, which were two of his favorites. And then I feel like he would encourage me, and he'd probably want me to work on something with him for Paisley Park and come up with something original, put in the atrium. I really think that he'd probably want to make something with some purple crystal and some marble.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that'd be up his alley, right next to the doves in the cage over there.
Oh man. Well, you were so blessed and fortunate, right, to work with him and know him and be mentored by him during some very formative years. And I've been bouncing around here a little bit, but like, how did he make you a better artist? Bit of advice or wisdom, or just watching him. Like, how did working with Prince make you a better artist?
Fearlessness. There was a time when I was first starting out there, and I first kind of met him, and I had only met him a couple times through one of my best friends, Kip Blackshire, which was his keyboard player and background singer. And Kip took me out there to watch them rehearse one day, and I was sitting in the back, and he knew a little bit about me. I don't know how much he knew, but they were just kind of rehearsing for their show, and I had been performing a lot the past few years in Minneapolis with my own band, and so I'd done a lot of performances before, but I always get nervous before a show, and sometimes the nervousness, I found like it hits you right before you get on stage, but then after about a minute, with me it would be like completely gone, and then I would be kind of like, it kind of goes out the window once you see people are interested and like they're in a good mood and they're digging it. Then all the nervousness fights away. But that first few minutes leading up to it and the first minute on stage, really nervous. So I'll sit in the back of the room, and while they were rehearsing, he waves me up on the stage and points to his microphone. And I'm like, all right, well, I can't not do this. So I was like, my stomach was in my my shoes. I'm like, all right, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. So, he points to the mic. So he's playing a song, and then like he comes to a break, and he's like, all right, go. So at that point, I had like dozens and dozens of songs memorized that I had written, and where sometimes I would freestyle, but I tried to mix it up a little bit. And I did that for a few minutes. And then I got kind of nervous and just kind of went out in the parking lot and just sat there after I'd rapped on a couple songs with him. And then I went outside and just kind of sat there on the curb like, man, did that just happen? And I wanted to leave before I said something stupid or like wore out my welcome. I'm just here to watch and hang out. I'm trying to make music with you as much as I want to. Like, I'm not ready for that. So the next day we come out, same thing happened. I'm sitting out there watching them rehearse. He calls me up again. But for some reason, like that day, I wasn't nervous at all. Like, it was weird. And I sat on stage with him for an hour, and we must have did dozens and dozens of songs. Like, he was doing Bob Marley, I Don't Want to Wait in Vain for Your Love. And there would be a moment where he would stop, and I would come in, and he'd kind of nod like, your turn. And then I would go. And then I said something, and I made him laugh, and I was like, oh, this is going good. And then it just kept going. The energy was good. And I was like, I walked outside, and I was like, freaked out. I was like, man, that was like probably the most special experience of my life. And then Morris, his keyboard player, Morris Hayes, comes outside and said something like, "Well, welcome to the club, man." Dude said he wants to work with you, so you're here. And I was just like, I don't know what that means, but I'm here. I'm in. I'm okay.
I don't know what that means, but I may throw up.
But yeah, but okay.
It's amazing.
So yeah, I remember going to the payphone in the rain because I didn't have any money and my phone was cut off. I remember going to the payphone in the rain to call my dad and like tell him what happened. I say, hey, so Prince wants to work with me.
That was crazy. Florida after all.
Right.
That's such a beautiful story, man. That is just so cool.
I still would get nervous, so he helped me learn how to be free on stage and fight any sort of lack of confidence or fear. He taught me how to float. And yeah, man, anybody he's ever worked with that I hear talk about like how he inspired them. A lot of people say something different, but it's all similar still. I mean, he gave them the confidence to believe in themselves, to say like, man, if he believes in me, then maybe I really am this, or I'm able to do this or be creative. Like I deserve to be creative, and I deserve to maybe make a living doing art.
The word that you used, fearlessness, right? I asked you what how he helped you be a better artist. I mean, that's such a powerful gift, that he gave you. So many artists need that gift.
If you don't believe it, no one else will. You can be humble, but you have to know what you can do and own that. Yeah, you don't have to be cocky, but you need to know that you do what you do and you do what you do well.
That is for sure. So if Jay-Z called tomorrow and said that he wanted to have Rhyme Capsule on the cover of his next album as key art for his next concert tour and album, what would you say?
I'd say, hold on one moment, I have to throw up. And then when I would come back, I would say, when do we start?
All right. Shout out to Jay-Z because I know he listens. I know he's out there. M&B. And let's do this, man. Let's make this happen. Yeah, man. Because it seems like such a natural thing. Like, I mean, I'm kind of surprised. Have any artists come to you or mention that?
I've had 3 or 4 people with big names reach out, and actually it's more like 5 or 6 people now. And then when I say the price, I get radio silence. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong yet. Only time will tell. But I said what I thought was fair. It's still in my possession as of this moment.
Well, I don't know who those artists were or whatever, but in my limited experience with projects like that, call me cynical, but oftentimes there's very little or no money because they think they're doing you the favor.
If this was a pair of sneakers, I know they're used to getting stuff free all the time. And like, if I was a brand or if it was a pair of sneakers, then yeah, but this was a lot more than that for me. So I'm not in the position to be able to gift this certain item.
There's always room for those bro deals and the friends and family rates and shit.
If it's the right person, yeah.
One of my pet peeves is when artists are asked to give their art up for free or for exposure or whatever. It happens all the time, so it's just, I get a little irritated when I hear about it because it's not fair. It's not right.
I know people are used to getting stuff for free, but I think the exposure thing is important. But I also think if it wasn't just some rich guy who just wanted to buy it, and it was an artist who I respect and have loved my whole life, I would definitely be willing to work something out, because of the kind of promotion that would happen with the piece, of course. So I'm also going to start offering the boombox solo by itself or on a marble pillar for a fraction of what I'm going to sell this piece for. And I'm only going to make, between 1 or 3 of these. So the boom boxes I might make up to 10 because I can do rock ones, I can do pop ones, I can do R&B ones. I can kind of run with those. But as far as these hip hop ones on the marble, man, that's kind of just a unique situation.
Yeah, earlier we were talking about the energy that it gives off. I mean, it's just it truly is a light in the room. I mean, it just emanates and exudes this positive energy. You've shown this piece now, I'm guessing to, hundreds of people, if not more. What's some of the feedback? What's some of the comments when people see this and experience it? Like, do you hear common themes from people? Like what's some of the positive feedback you've gotten?
On social media, I reached out to a few art pages and it would get quite a lot of views and comments. Most of the comments were just tagging other people to share it with people they thought would like it, and they're like fire, 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 hands up emoji, heart, heart, heart. It's all, that this is incredible, that's amazing. There was a couple well-known rappers that a friend of mine texted it to, and how they all had the same response. They would do one fire emoji or three fire emojis or whatever, and that was kind of how people communicate these days as far as online. In person, I haven't got to showcase it yet, so I was really hoping to showcase it this year. That was the plan, to do it either at the LA Art Show or at some places here in Atlanta. Now that it's here in Atlanta with me, there was a couple things I was looking into, and then COVID hit, so I haven't been able to do anything in the past year really. So it's been sitting in a dark room for a year, and it's a shame because I was so looking forward to see how people respond to it in person. And
I guarantee you that room is not dark. That door is shut, but that thing is glowing in there. If you could only see, because it is truly
like
that.
the Ark of the Covenant, it's on some Indiana Jones shit right now.
It is. It has that level of supernatural energy to it, man. It's just really, really, really awesome. So, as you think about doing maybe up to 3 of these, right? So you've done one. You've learned a lot, obviously. Is there anything that you will do different the second time to make the process any easier? Is there any ways to?
There's a couple minor things, but as a whole, to make a second one, I feel like it's going to be 100 times easier. There are still hurdles with the shipping and the customs and this and that, but I have all the specs, so doing a second or a third aren't going to be as time consuming as doing the first one.
Well, no, it's just interesting because I mean, and I know that technology gets better all the time, right? And like, I understand, or at least like now they have these sort of 3D scanners, right, that can scan objects and take it right into CAD, right? So like, if you were to do another one, like looking back, like could you take a boom box and have it scanned in 3D to sort of get right into CAD? Is that?
It would still need, for the precision that we did on the crystal, that wouldn't work. Maybe for the marble guy we could do that, but for the crystal, because it's reflective material, the lasers won't. There'll be a lot of holes, and that shit needs to be precise in order to do it that way. So the way I did it would have been the right way anyway for that. As far as toys, I already have the 3D renders, so I could see that being in the future. I did reach out to the founder of the Universal Hip Hop Museum in New York. They're building a museum in the Bronx near Yankee Stadium on the waterfront. They're breaking ground right now. It should be done in 2023. It's going to be the largest curation of hip hop items in the entire world. And they're very excited about having the rhyme capsule there, or a rhyme capsule there, maybe permanently, but in the atrium or in the big, like whatever the big room is, to have it in the center. We spoke about that, and I'm totally 100% feel like one should be there. So I know it's 3 years from now, but I'm not sure how that's all gonna work out. But it sounds like we're both really want to make that happen.
Yeah. What are some of the most surprising things that came out of this? Like, clearly you got into this just because you're an artist, you wanted to make this artwork, it's born of your heart and soul. So it had to be done. Obviously it's been a really long journey. There were many beautiful things that came out of it, obviously some stressful things that came out of it. But like when you look back on like 2 or 3 things that you really learned from it, what comes to mind?
Sticking to the vision. When I think one of the biggest things is that, and anybody can learn from this, is that there was a couple times during this process where I thought my idea wasn't going to happen at all. When I found out I couldn't, I mean, this whole thing was supposed to be an embedment. That's what inspired me. It was supposed to be an embedment. I found out I couldn't do an embedment. So was I just gonna, was I hit a roadblock, a major roadblock? This thing was not gonna happen at all. No way in hell. The tapes will melt under the high heat and pressure. It's plastic. It's gonna melt. And I took that failure and just sat back and just started having conversations with people I love and people I trust. And turned out, a friend of mine brought up crystal, and that, through a failure, it turned into the biggest success about the project. Was like, that, if I wouldn't have hit that failure, this thing would have been made out of acrylic with some plastic boombox parts on the outside. So you got to go with the flow. And when something seems like a L, it may actually be a W disguised as a L. So take it a day at a time and flip that shit. Nothing's over till it's over. You just got to keep pushing and make sure bring your vision to life. I think that was the biggest lesson, was that I don't get frustrated. I'm trying not to get frustrated when I hit a wall now. Try not to lose my shit. Just try to think of a way around it.
Yeah. It's a powerful idea, and it's often learned the hard way, right? It's, one of those hard won lessons. Earlier you said something about going with the flow, and as the flow goes, like sometimes, right, it gets hung up, there's like an obstacle, and they just got to find its way around that obstacle, and it just takes time, and that's where the patience comes in. And I think it's hard sometimes, right, to just sort of let things sit, just like let like sit in the pain, sit in the frustration, sit in the
right. You may not find a solution today. It may take a month.
That's right.
But you can't stop. You have to push through and find a solution. And you might have to settle. Every situation is different. You might have to settle for some things, but it's just a possibility that an L might not be the L you think it is.
So what I got to ask though, like, because I hadn't really thought too much about the idea of lifting it off the pallet onto the floor and then lifting it back up off the floor onto the pallet. Like, what is that process like? Like, exactly, like
it's about 6 guys that know what they're doing, and you need like broomstick handles, and you need all sorts of lever, like they had like metal lever. They have a lot of 2x4s, wooden 2x4s, and that's probably how they built the pyramids, I would
that's
imagine,
exactly
in a
what I bet you
similar way.
you're building a pyramid, yeah, moving one of those blocks, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking when I do have to showcase this thing, or somebody does wind up owning it at some point, I'm gonna have to deal with those logistics. It's gonna be something.
Oh, it's something, all right. It is something. It's going to be something. It is such an inspiring story that you have, and that's why I was just so looking forward to having you on the podcast and us talking about this, because well, to the extent that we can help get your story out there so other people are hearing it. I mean, for the art collector that does want to buy it, like what's the price?
I don't know. I'm kind of scared to put it out there right now, because I apparently, because you'll probably radio silence on me. I think the podcast will be over if I tell you the price of it. Seems to be a
call if you're interested. Call
right.
What
Market price? It said market price, like lobster on the menu. It just
That's
says
right.
market price.
That's right. Well, what I would say is, as much as the market will bear, that's what it's going to cost.
It's the eye of the beholder. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I appreciate that, and it's just an interesting notion, because I know the right collector is out there for it. The website is rhymecapsule.com.
Yes.
And for anyone out there that might be interested in working with you as a art director, creative director, designer, that's davidmadeit.com.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I have to say, you and I've met, I obviously knew about your history with Prince, which, for me and for so many people, right? Like that's all I need to know. When I was doing a little research, I didn't realize that you also have worked with potentially more provocative characters like Paris Hilton.
I did a lot of work for her over the past 10 years. Album covers, T-shirts, logos, brand decks, websites, all kinds of stuff.
Well, actually, I mean, you and I need to talk about some projects. If you're down, because
of course we've talked about this. I'm want to work with you. I'm ready.
Well, we'll make it happen. Then we'll make it happen. I just, yeah, man, it's this. You're talking about roadblocks and everything. I mean, obviously 2020 has been, so weird on so many levels. And, when COVID hit, we had our conference that was planned. We do this artist conference. We started in 2019. We'll do it every year.
That's where I met you the first time. That's where I came with Fish. I was there with Fish that day.
That's right. And so we had it. It was all ready to go. March 20th, I think was the date. And then obviously we canceled it, and 2020 has been so fucked up on so many levels. But, I personally had to sort of like hunker down and just be like, okay, like, what does it mean? Like, what am I supposed to learn right now?
Yep. The whole entertainment got paused. A pause button.
Big time, man. Yeah, the just the whole music. I mean, everything, right? So, and it turned out, I mean, on a certain level, like one of the beautiful things that came out of this year for me is it just gave me more time to spend with my kids. We've had dinner as a family together like every night for the last 6 months. Like sounds horrible, but we never did that. I mean, we on the weekends. Yeah. We had, on the weekends, but family dinner on a Tuesday night, so anyway, you just, it's called making lemonade, right?
Are you in LA or are you,
Well, right now I'm in Mammoth Lakes area.
okay.
We just so happened to splurge and get a like a little holiday home last fall, and I just like who thought, right, that it would be like the perfect place to quarantine. So we came up in March and we've been here basically ever since.
Wow.
So it's been nice because, there's like no people and, you don't have to wear masks and the kids can play outside and everything. Of course, now, though, we're dealing with the fires. The fires are creek fires 19 miles away and we're just killed with smoke. And like there's a mountain out my window here. I can't even see it because of all the smoke. And we're probably going back to LA on Saturday just to get out of the smoke because it's just that bad. But hey, I'm not complaining, and it is what it is. We'll adjust. But it's been a crazy year. But so you're in Atlanta. When are you coming back to LA? When do I get to see you?
I don't have any plans yet, but I imagine some of my consulting will take me back out there next year once everything's anywhere near back to normal. I'm sure I'll be out there at some point in 2021.
Yeah. We'll get together. We'll do something, fun and by the way, before we go, like I have to ask, like, are you recording any new music these days? Are you what's happening with the music?
Man, I pushed the pause on that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're cool with that?
I miss it. And some days Kip and I kind of toy around with some ideas, but we haven't followed through with any of them in a long time. Yeah, of course I miss it, but it's not. I chose to make physical art right now, but who knows?
Well, that's the thing, right? As an artist, I mean, you're truly a multidisciplinary artist, right? And so it's like, now you're doing physical art now, and that's feeding your soul. And when music's up next, okay, fine, but
we did do there's like ever since Prince passed in 2016, there's been a couple Prince reunion shows in Minneapolis where some of his bands get together, and we've done that. Fish and I went up there for that about 3 years ago, and we were going to do one again this year in June, and that all got scrapped. So those reunion shows are fun because I don't have to write any new material or worry about the marketing and branding. We just go and play the old shit we used to play with Prince. So it's like that's easier to just go up there and rehearse with the guys for a few days before the show. Like that's fun. I'll always do that. But as far as new stuff, I haven't been so inspired to finish something.
Right. I'm so grateful I got to see him perform a few times, and some amazing experiences, man. I saw him for the first time in it had to be 07, I guess, 08, and he played Chicago and the Aragon Ballroom, which it was like an old ballroom. So the venue was pretty small, relatively speaking, and, a couple thousand people or something. And it's standing room only, so it's, general admission kind of thing. Right. So we got there on the early side. So we get up close to the stage and stuff. And you've probably heard the story a million times, but I've never seen a concert open like this because it was when he used to do like when he'd start like with the lights off.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so the room is totally dark. And by the way, this was a tour he was with Chaka Khan and Larry Graham.
Larry Graham.
Yeah. And so it's just totally dark. And all of a sudden, like you kind of see this person walk on the stage and pick up a guitar and just starts like jamming, right? In the darkness, right? And then a couple of minutes later, the drummer comes out, starts playing, totally dark. Then the keyboards, then then the sax, then like everyone in the total darkness, and then the lights come on like 10 minutes later when they are just in full swing, and it was so beautiful, man. It was just so cool.
I got so many memories, so many stories. There'd be times when, he sticks to the script because he rehearsed the show a million times before we go on the road. But because he knows it so well, of course he has to like change it all the time. So it's like some nights you don't know what the hell's going on. Like we had our first night on tour. We did 2 shows in Atlanta, and the first night I think I opened up for him, but the second night we didn't open up. But he wanted me to come out on the first song, which was Daisy Chain, which was a song that me and him did together. We wrote. It was a song on his album that I'm rapping on. He was like, I'm going to start the show with Daisy Chain, but he never starts the show with Daisy Chain. And so I remember going out on stage, and in the front row, I'm seeing TLC and Dallas Austin and all these people. I'm like, oh my God, everybody from Atlanta is like staring at me right now in the front row. And he turns on Daisy Chain, the beat. He has to lead the song off because he's the one, like he leads the song on that song. I don't come in until the chorus and my verse. So I don't know what to do. So I'm just standing there, and it's Larry Graham's playing the bass, and it's been going on. The beat's been going on for about 5 minutes. And I'm just standing there on the stage, like, I don't know what to do. So I grab a tambourine and I'm just like hitting it because I got tired of standing there with my hand.
Pockets.
Yeah. So I'm like, they're like, what's the sound guy doing up there? Like, what, why is this guy on the stage? Like, is he lost? So like, I'm just like, it went on for like 10 minutes now. So 10 minutes, I'm just banging the tambourine. I just remember like, is he like fucking with me or something? Like, I don't understand what's going on. It's like taking forever. Finally, after like 10 or 12 minutes, he starts the first verse. But I just remember like not knowing what the fuck we were doing. No idea. We rehearsed for 3 months before we even went on tour, but we didn't, a lot of that stuff. But then, man, this dude he'll show up to sound check like as they're building the stage, like early in the day at an arena. And he'll sit there at the sound booth and be like, let me hear the hi-hat, and the drum tech will be up there hitting, like, and he'll tell the mixer to be like, I need more high in the, more mid in the hi-hat, more mid, hit it, more mid in the hi-hat. Like he'll go through every little part of that to make sure that sound is what he needs it to be, like every instrument. And then after he does that, which is a super in-depth sound check, he'll get on stage and play for like an hour or two and just run through the sets before people even get there. And then he'll play for 3 or 4 hours on stage for the show. And then after that, we go to an after party and he'll play for another 3 hours for a room full of 300 people. And we do the same shit, plus some other songs that we didn't play that we saved for after shows. So I would watch this shit every day. Like, this dude is a vampire. He just doesn't sleep. This shit is crazy. Like, music was all day, every day for him. Was it.
Just born to do it.
Every detail he's involved in, every single detail.
Prince came first, but it's like the Michael Jordan of rock and roll. You know what I mean? It's just like incredible, right? These world-class minds, these geniuses that don't overlook the fundamentals, because that's like they were both masters of the fundamentals, right? Dave, Devious, I could do this all night long, brother. I could.
Next time we'll do it with some drinks and without the microphones.
Yes, for sure. And we can maybe even do one with Fish sometime, the 3 of us. That'd be kind of fun. He was on the show. Actually, he's been on the show twice, because there's a joke in podcasting. They say that you're not a professional podcaster until you lose an episode, right? We had done like, I don't know, 50 episodes or whatever, no problem. Fish comes, does an episode, and it's fucked. Like, I don't know what happened to the audio or what I did, but like it was unusable after like hour and a half, 2 hours of talking.
Oh no.
I had to break his heart. I was like, dude, like I wasted your time. Like, I just feel so bad, And of course he, took it like a pro and a champ and was super, super gracious. So then he came back, a few weeks later or whatever, and we managed to get an episode out of it. But that was kind of a funny day, because there was something going on with Truth or whatever. And so his phone was blowing up like during the interview, right? He had to take the call because he just stuff going on with the kid. So we got to get him back on, and
we'll do one together, and we can tell the story about how I took my sneaker off on stage and threw it by his face in Detroit in Joe Louis Arena, and it missed his nose by an inch. And he's playing while he was playing a guitar solo. We can talk about that story.
Well, that's a good
man.
I
didn't mean to hit him or throw it at him, but apparently he said he could smell the shoe. It was so close to his face when it flew by.
It's like, dude, what the fuck? What did I do? Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. That's a good cliffhanger for that episode because I know there's a good story behind that. My brother, David Schwartz, thank you.
Oh man. Thanks for having me on here.
Much love. Be safe. Be healthy.
You too.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to like this episode, write a review, and share with your friends on social. And if you haven't already done so, please press the subscribe button and follow us on Instagram at Not Real Art World. If you're an artist, be sure to apply for our 2021 artist grant at notrealart.com. Sourdough out.